that.
Thank you for your patience. We're trying to conclude our work on corrections, public safety. So we still have page 6 open, and the motion is for the Senate version.
2-1 Assembly.
2-1 on the Assembly, and 2-1 on the Senate. So we have concluded public safety. So we're now on page 14, Moving to the Employment Development Department. The issue is paid family leave outreach.
We'll approve the Senate language, Senate proposal with some budget bill language, trailer bill language to follow.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Weber. So the motion is the Senate version, which approved the governor's proposal. And just to clarify what the deliberation here was, the Assembly had approved $1 million from the State Disability Account Fund for additional paid family leave outreach activity. And Ms. Bosler, you correct me if I'm off on some numbers here, but when the new statute took effect, that there is now paid family leave in California, there was $1 million in the first year, then 2.5 million in the second year, which we're currently in. And then in 16-17, there will be another 3 million, all for outreach. And we discussed that when these laws change, it is now the law that employer must inform the new employee upon hiring that there is paid family leave, that there are notices on the walls of employment, of course, and that we did these additional millions of dollars just to make sure the message got out to Californians that there is now paid family leave. So in addition to the Senate's version, which approved the governor's proposal, we're suggesting that there be a minor compromise, that we also add some budget bill language to allow for up to $1 million if needed, if there is documented need for further outreach. But it would have to be documented, and it would be capped at $1 million, and it would be coming from the State Disability Account Fund. But we want to be otherwise true to the 3-year agreement that we had made at the time. Did I not confuse you there?
No, you are correct that we proposed a 3-year pilot program for outreach related to the paid family leave program. Last year was the first year, or sorry, the current year is the first year. And we are continuing to move forward with those outreach activities. They are growing in the budget year and in budget year +1. I'm not sure that we see the budget bill language as necessary, but so we continue to support our proposal.
All right. So again, this is just in a spirit of compromise with the Assembly that should there be, and the reason we're even having this conversation is that to our knowledge, there's still a very low rate of participation in this benefit. And so there may be potential additional need on top of what outreach you're already doing. If that can be documented, it would allow for up to 1 million. So that's the proposal before us. Senator Nielsen.
If I may ask a question of the ledge analyst, Mr. Chairman?
Of course, of course.
As far as this disability insurance fund, $3 billion balance, so now we're going to put a new draw on it. Is this something, if we continue to find new draws on this balance, that we will draw that down and then maybe someday in the foreseeable future have a upside down balance in that fund? If we continue to put new burdens on it, shall I say?
Ryan Woolsey with the Legislative Analyst's Office. Two things. First, the practice of the state is that the director of the department, Employment Development Department, has authority to increase or decrease the contribution rate that is levied on employers. It's 0.9% in the current year. It's going to be 1% in the following year to reflect the changing needs for funds in that fund. The second thing is, with the balance as it is, we don't believe a $1 million additional appropriation would have a significant effect on the fund's ability to continue to pay benefits.
But we with a accrued balance of this high amount, why don't we reduce rates on the employer instead of even contemplating raising rates?
As I mentioned, the state's practice is that the director of the Employment Development Department has the authority to increase or reduce rates, and it's our understanding that the current balance in the fund is roughly consistent with acknowledged best practices in terms of fund balances for programs of this nature.
Excuse me for being facetious, but I envision the day after the end of the earth when such a director would make that determination. We've reduced the cost. Excuse the facetiousness, but it's a product of being around here a lot of years.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. So 2-1 on the Senate side on page 14, Senate with budget bill language. We will be coming back for the Assembly vote. Moving on to page 15, this is Public Employment Relations Board staffing. The governor and the Senate had no proposals. The Assembly did have $1 million, $500,000 to cover current projected deficit, and then some smaller amounts to deal with the system itself. Senator Lara.
Mr. Chair, I move the Assembly version.
All right, we have a motion for the Assembly version. 2-1, and again, we'll come back for the Assembly vote on page 15.
Yeah, and we're just not supportive of this augmentation. We are always working with PERB about what their staffing needs, and we don't know what issue that this is solving right now.
Understood. Thank you. And then moving to page 16, this deals with paid sick leave outreach. We do have a compromise, and that would be the Assembly version, which is $1 million general fund for outreach one time, and authorize, and then also some budget bill language which would authorize use of the Labor Enforcement and Compliance Fund if there were any suggestion for further need of outreach. My understanding is that there's no current authorization for the use of that fund for this purpose. So this is one-time outreach general fund. That is the compromise. Senator Lara?
Move the compromise.
Okay, we do have a motion for that. Page 16, 2-1, returning for the Assembly vote.
I'm sorry, so the clarification is to approve the governor's budget with budget bill language to authorize up to $1 million, again, similar to the family leave?
Correct. Plus the 1 million.
So it is a straight
One
up
time.
augmentation?
You're right,
Okay.
yes, one time. And short of going back for our votes,
Sorry, it's 1 million special fund or general fund?
it is general fund.
General fund, okay.
But with
We're
the
not supportive of the additional amount. We did have a proposal.
Right, I understand that. And then the budget bill language authorizing the potentiality of the future, so we wouldn't have to go back to use general fund if we needed so. So that does complete pages 1 through 16. For public safety, judicial, and labor, we do need to come back to pages 14, 15, and 16 to get the final votes on the Assembly side. Before we go on to state administration, we are going to quickly revisit the 3 open items in resources. That would be pages 21, 31, and 34. Thank you all for your patience. And then we also have an addendum that we'll get to once we close out these 3 items I've just mentioned. Page 21 deals with Choice Creek restoration.
Mr. Chair, I move this, the Assembly version with Prop 1E funding.
Right, so we'll be saving $6 million in general fund using Prop 1E. Assembly version 2-1. And we will hold open.
Just for technical scoring purposes.
Yes.
All of the 1E money is already appropriated in the conference version, so we just need to reconcile that in terms of how we would adjust the prior actions.
So noted. Thank you. Sorry for the delay, folks. We're back to page 21. The vote is 2-1 on the Senate, 2-0 on the Assembly. Page 31. There was a conference compromise on page 31. This is the drought multiple agencies. Mr. Brown?
Brian Brown, Legislative Analyst Office. Yeah, I understand that there's a compromise that includes a mix of language that was of what was proposed by the administration as well as the two houses. As I understand it, the language that was agreed to was the expanded local law enforcement authority from the administration, drought penalties, trailer bill language, drought monitoring and reporting trailer bill language from the administration, Proposition 1 accountability language from the Assembly, drought water system consolidation language from the administration, prioritization of fish screens, budget bill language from the Senate, and building code provisional trailer bill language from the administration. And in terms of funding, my understanding is that it would be the full funding level proposed by the administration with respect to the groundwater contamination, $132 million from water recycling, and $50 million from desalinization.
I want to move the compromise.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Ms. Bosler.
We would just note that there has been significant work on this package, and we do appreciate all of the hard work. I know over the weekend, meetings were going on the language in this package. We do still have a few issues that we need to resolve, but overall, we are supportive of the package.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you. We have a motion for the conference compromise. Senator Nielsen.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, there may be some people that are happy with this proposal, but I think once it is implemented, and there are many aspects of it, this piece here is facilitative of what we're coming forth, what did somewhat last year and over the last 2 years with the drought emergency resolution. legislation, but then as we proceed with trailer bills related to this subject area, which we're not getting to yet, it's a very stunning and enormous policy change, historic significance, and it implies reneging on historic water rights and many other aspects, intrusion into our lives, our violation of our private property rights. It's just a stunning usurpation of independence of the individual and of the community. I just have to say that in prefacing my no vote here. It's not just a small single budget item we're talking about. We're talking about major policy changes that are going to be affected, at least in the trailer bills, again, without any policy hearing, any opportunity for the public to have anything to say about it whatsoever. And it's just not government at its best, but rather at its worst. But thank you for letting me comment, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, Senator Nielsen, thank you for them. Tough issues, tough drought, tough decisions to be made. Ms. Bosler, you had additional comments?
Just that we're in the fourth year of an unprecedented drought. Local governments around the state are struggling with the reduction mandates that the state has imposed, and many of these pieces of trailer bill language are to further their ability to implement those reduction targets, to also build a more resilient water infrastructure going forward that will be able to withstand the droughts such as we're currently experiencing. So this is really about not only addressing the current here and now issues, but also about building a more resilient water infrastructure going forward.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Assemblywoman.
I may have missed part of the conversation, but are we open to bifurcating this vote to vote on the trailer bill language and then a separate vote on the funding?
So the request, if I understand it, is just to separate out the trailer bill language from the funding. We can do that if you would like.
Thank you.
So on the trailer bill language, 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. And the funding for groundwater contamination is at the governor's proposed level, $784 million. And then there's $132 million for water recycling, $50 million for desalinization. And the vote on that will be 3-0
And 3-0 on the Assembly.
and 3-0. All right. Thank
I
you.
would just note on the water recycling, we are supportive of our larger amount that we proposed in the May revision.
Okay. And then our last open item under resources is page 34. And this is the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan.
Mr. Chair, I move the Assembly version.
We're going to go with the Assembly version, and the vote on that would be, the difference again was a funding source. The Assembly version shifts $4.1 million from the Water Rights Fund to the general fund. 3-0. 3-0.
We think the Water Rights Fund is an appropriate funding source.
All right, very good. Yes, so then with those three votes taken, there is a page 42.1. If I can find it. And this is the LA River Opportunity Acquisition. Senator Lara?
Mr. Mr. Chair, I move the Senate version that proposes to allocate $30 million from Proposition 1E for flood-related opportunity acquisition on the Los Angeles River.
Okay, and I understand there will be a Los Angeles City equal match to that.
Correct.
Ms. Bosler?
We would just note that because the Prop 1E money is all fully allocated in the current conference version, there would need to be some technical adjustments.
All right. We make note of that. Senator Nielsen?
2-1. 2-1.
And 2-1. And that, colleagues,
Mr. Chairman, may I add on to page 21? I believe I missed that.
we did close the roll on that one. So, colleagues, without objection, on page 21, we allow Assemblywoman Melendez to add on, and your
So
vote on that would
That would be
be
a no vote.
a no vote. Okay. Two one is the final vote on page 21 without objection.